Hey, so I just finished watching all five films of Small Axe from Steve McQueen on Amazon Prime, and I'm gonna give you a little bit of an overview of my experiences with Steve McQueen before going through what I thought of each individual film and the anthology as a whole. I thought it would be easier to do it this way in one review instead of five separate ones, just because my thoughts of them are all pretty similar to one another. So first off, I already reviewed Widows, but I will still go over that again. So starting chronologically, his first film, Hunger, is my favorite of all of his. I think it's a masterpiece, and it's highly worth a watch. I gave that film a 9.5 out of 10. His second film, Shame, is right up there. It's his second best movie. Those two are like unbeatably good. I think I gave that one like an 8.75 out of 10, maybe a 9. But that one's an extremely good addiction drama. His third film is 12 Years a Slave, which, excluding the Small Axe movies, is his weakest film, in my opinion. I couldn't get really emotionally invested into anything, despite it kind of feels like a movie that people like just because they're supposed to like it, and everyone tells them that they have to, just because of like the subject matter, and it's one of those movies where it's like you either like it or you're racist if you don't, and it's just not a very enjoyable experience. It's not very emotionally powerful. Felt people kept telling me that the ending was gonna like be bittersweet, like, or at least I was expecting it to be that way, with like him finally breaking free of being enslaved after 12 years, but like everyone else being stuck in the process and just kind of the doom of that. I was expecting it to be like really emotionally challenging that way, but I just felt nothing. I don't think the movie really did its job in my eyes. The performances were good in that. And I'll be referring back to this whole section when talking about Small Axe, because my review of the Small Axe movies is a lot like my review of 12 Years a Slave, so it doesn't really bode well, does it? But everyone loved 12 Years a Slave. They think it's his best movie for some reason. And again, they think Small Axe is his best movies to date. And again, I don't get it, but we'll get into that later when we catch up to it. Up next, I'm trying to think if his next movie was Widows. That would only be his fourth movie, though. I feel like there's one in between. Whatever, I'll do Widows. So I already reviewed Widows, saying that I really liked it, giving it an 8.5. Um, but in the time since, my appreciation of it has dimmed a little. It's still in between 12 Years a Slave and Shame for me, and it's still an extremely good movie that say is worth checking out. It's just kind of, once you know everything that happens, it kind of takes away the thrill of watching it. So it's kind of more difficult on repeat viewings, I've found. So yeah, and that brings us up to Small Axe, which is five different movies. The first movie is Mangrove, which is his most acclaimed. People are like putting it up there for Best Picture. And is, out of all the movies, the one that people have really been giving 10 out of 10s for. Like, I think right now on Rotten Tomatoes it has like a 9.5 out of 10, and like 100% critics and like 95% audience, something like that. Like, ridiculous amount of praise that you know it's not going to live up to. So, of course, it doesn't. I gave it like a 7 out of 10. It was fine. It was okay. It wasn't great. I don't get why these movies that are mediocre, people keep giving like the maximum score possible of 10 out of 10. Like everyone unanimously agrees but me. I just don't understand. It was basically just the trial of the Chicago 7 again, which we just got like a month ago. So it was kind of boring seeing the exact same true story playing out only on the other side of the world. And I get that there's really not much that you can do about that because they're both true stories and you want to stay true to that word. But the main thing that I complained about during the movie, and you'll see me complaining about this on each of the different Small Axe movies, is they made it too overlong. They focus on really, really long shots of nothing happening, and you just sit there. I think they want you to be like in the moment or something like that, but it's super dull and boring, and you just want it to move on, and it never does. The whole Small Axe series of films should have just been one movie, or like, I'd be happy with even it all just being one episode, because even the high points is still like, yeah, this is too long. Like, for example, in Mangrove, there's this one scene where a bull like gets tipped over and it's focusing on that, and then after it like reverberates, then it goes still. And we focus on the bull after it went still for like a solid 2 minutes, and it's the most boring thing ever. And you keep waiting for something to happen because it feels like you're waiting for something, or like it's trying to say something, but whatever it was saying, it totally whooshed me. I have no idea what it was saying. Went totally over my head. I have no idea. It was just a very bizarre long shot that just seemed like, okay, this is just making the movie even more unnecessarily long for no reason at all. Because the movie's already over 2 hours, which is too long, but, whatever. The movie weirdly picked up in pace once you got to the trial, because they had too many scenes leading up to the actual, like, uh, inciting incident. The inciting incident of the movie, which usually comes at the end of the first act in most movies. So for this movie, it would be like 43 minutes in. It was at the end of like the second act of the movie, which is odd to put that like an hour 20 minutes in. Like, that's a really bizarre choice to put that much prologue into it because it was really unnecessary. There wasn't anything interesting at all happening in that. It was just very boring and dull, and I don't need to know all these things about all these people going into it because it's not necessary information. It doesn't make for very interesting characterization. It's just all dull and unnecessary exposition. Uh, the second film is by far the worst one in my opinion. It's Lover's Rock. I get what they were trying to do with this one, which I was bringing up with the last movie, where the whole movie is just one moment in time, just trying to capture that moment as well as it can. And so basically, the whole plot of the movie is so everyone's jamming out to romantic. I'm trying to think of how to explain this. So everyone is just jamming out to like what is this genre? Like how I explain it without saying the title of the movie. It's like Bob Marley esque, like Jamaican romantic music. It's weird. Uh and the movie just feels like one extended music video, and like it's like shot fine and the performances are fine, but there's just literally nothing else going on because that's it. That's the entire plot, and you're stuck there for 90 minutes, and this is literally the only thing that's happening. And this one, critics are like, oh my gosh, 10 out of 10, it's a moment in time. And then audiences are divisive like me because they're like, what the heck was that? Nothing happened. And I get that's supposed to be like a tender relief from all the persecution of like the British uh black community that are going to be in every single other one of the movies, which gets very repetitive, mind you, as a theme. Uh, so in that sense, it's kind of nice to have that. I just wish that they would have had this layer in the compilation set list, because at number two, you don't realize that literally every single movie is gonna be, all right, here's an event where racism and like just bad things are happening to black people. So it's like here now the black people get to feel chill for whatever for like an hour and a half, and you can just relax. I feel like this should have been number four, since to make it feel like less repetitious of like the themeries of each movie, because it's just like the same movie over and over again for five movies, it feels like. And I get that history repeats itself a lot, and you can see that looking back at these like events in British history, but it's just like it's exhausting and it's slow moving and it's so difficult to watch. I think I might have fallen asleep while watching Lovers Rock because it was so boring. Like I think I dropped my phone on my foot, which made me wake up again. It was like incredibly dull. The third movie is by far the best one, which was Red, White, and Blue, which coincidentally starred John Boyega in the lead role. I found it really interesting how it explored the concept of like there's still racism, but the main character is a cop who's also black, and just kind of how that dynamic works where most people think of cops with the dynamic that's been going on lately of all the shootings and tragedies going on as just like people that are just looking to take out black people. So how exactly does it look portraying a black cop on screen? Because you probably wouldn't do that unless if they were just like a big hypocrite or something. I don't know. So like it was interesting because every movie with a cop in it likes going the political cliched route of, hey, we gotta have that scene where the cop comes across a black guy driving and he's like, hey, were you speeding? Hey, look, it's my gun. Want to get shot in the face? Bam, you're dead. Uh-oh. Get it? Because what's going on in the world right now? Get it? Because all cops are like this? Get it? So it was nice to have a movie that wasn't exactly like that. And John Boyega's performance was really good in the movie. I thought where the plot went was very interesting, and I wouldn't have minded seeing more of the movie. But like I said with the first movie, again, weirdly, even though I wouldn't have minded seeing more, it was too long because they spent like 5 minutes showing an uncut pacer test. And we do not need to see that entire pacer test. We get that he's going to get in. Like, we could predict that from the offset. It's not that unpredictable. You could literally just show us him being like the last one still going, and we would get the point. I don't get why there was the need to show that much of it. What was the director trying to say artistically about this? I don't know. It's just a really weird choice to like linger so much on all these bizarre moments. It doesn't really say much, I don't think. It's bizarre. And then the fourth movie is Alex Whittle, which is the story of a boy growing up, and then like going to prison or whatever. I don't remember much of that one. It was fine. It started to get really boring eventually. And then the fifth and final one is Education, which is it started out really promising because I thought this one would be super relatable, and the first third was really good of it. I really dug the new screen format. I liked the surreal visuals. I thought that the themery could have some interesting, like, relatability and emotional earnestness in it. I liked delving into, like, the autism spectrum and how people aren't just, like, completely autistic, like, can't function in society or like not autistic at all. Like there's that whole spectrum in between, and you shouldn't treat them either of those ways. And dealing with the theme of how the educational system totally fails everyone. Those two themes right there, having come out of high school recently myself, seemed like there was a lot of rich material you could dig into there. But then around a third into the story, the then it just kind of loses itself, and then you're like, wait, why is this a story? There's no story here. Because after your third in, it doesn't really go anywhere. You think it's going places. I started predicting that this was the one that came out today, by the way, this last one. I predicted from the way that everyone was acting so bizarre. The acting was really weird in this movie. It threw me off, and not in a good way. uh everyone that was supposed to be a good guy in the movie, like in the traditional sense, like in the we're black people trying to help other black people, and ooh, those evil white people, like, that traditional trope that you see in a lot of these types of movies. uh I thought they were gonna try to do a subversion of that, because when there is that one black group trying to help out the other black group, I thought they were going to do the twist that they were actually just as bad as the white people, because the way they were acting was so sketchy, and the things that they're proposing did not seem like they were helping at all, and they seemed too good to be true, and the way that they worded everything seemed like kind of like they were signing up for, they're making you sign up for something that you didn't realize you were signing up for. Like, they're trying to word it in a way where, like, you wouldn't realize what you're signing up for, because they're trying to make you think you're signing up for something else, if that makes sense. And like the way they kept acting, it was just like super suspicious. I thought they were really the bad guys, but apparently not, because it ended earlier than them getting there. But I thought that would have been interesting. But I guess it's a true story. I think all these are true stories, anyways. So, oh well, I guess. Uh, yeah. I thought that was pretty disappointing though, because that would have been all that stuff I mentioned was pretty good up until that point, but then just nothing happened. It was just like, yeah, screw 'em, let's go in for education. And then just like the kid magically, after one Saturday, becomes like a better reader at, after like parroting things back, and they're like, wow, it was so cheesy and bad. It was like, wow, you just destroyed all the goodwill this could have had. It was so two-dimensional. Like, it's actually kind of embarrassing. The more I talk about this series, the more angry it makes me, and the more I realize how much I should lower the score. Alright, I think I'll give the full series a 5 out of 10. Because, like, it was really disappointing. Like, come on, Steve McQueen, I know you can do better. I've seen you do better. What the heck happened here? So to talk about the last one, I thought it would have really like emotionally hit deep, because for those of you who don't know, I also have autism, and a lot of people don't know that. So sometimes conversations go certain ways, and I don't pick up on certain things that they expect me to pick up on since I have autism, and they get really frustrated with me that I hadn't picked up on certain things. And I can't help that I didn't pick up on it. I try really hard to. I try really badly to combat these certain things. And it doesn't come off super apparently, since I'm on one of the higher functioning levels of the spectrum. But I try really hard to pick up on all these things that people want me to pick up on. But it's still difficult for me. I still get flack for it. Uh, yeah, and it would be interesting to kind of see that on screen more, because you don't see that a lot, like kind of the difficulties of living with that. And the way that they were talking about it at the beginning of the movie, it made me think that they were going to go into it. So that was disappointing when they didn't. It was just like he magically becomes like perfect and not autistic again. It was like dumb, because that's not how it works. You have to struggle and live with it. And I don't think that the way they showed it was appropriate. It's just not something with an easy fix that you can magically solve. So yeah, hope you liked the review. And I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye bye.